What's up guys, Matt here, and I'm excited today because we're going to be doing a public speaking reaction video to Tyler Perry, the producer, the director, the actor. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not actually super familiar with his work myself, but he recently won a humanitarian award at the Oscars. And I was told, Matt, Tyler Perry does an amazing acceptance speech. You have to check it out. So that's what we're doing today. Let's dive right into it.
That's incredibly kind. Thank you so much. They only gave me a few minutes, so I want to say a very special thanks to Ms. Viola Davis, who is nominated tonight in doing this. Thank you. I really appreciate it. To the Board of Governors, especially to Whoopi Goldberg, Ava. You know, when I set out to...
The first thing I noticed is he's showing quite a lot of signs of nervousness at the very beginning of the speech. He plays with his button. He doesn't seem to quite know what to do with his hands. He's sort of clasping over and under, then he puts his thumbs up, he twiddles with them, he's kind of rubbing on his fingers, grabbing them. All these things they're telltale signs of nervousness, and it's not unusual, especially at the beginning of a speech. It's like you get this dump of adrenaline, and you've got this excess nervous energy, you don't quite know what to do with it, and it can manifest itself in nervous tics or twitches or fidgets. And we're seeing a few of them here today. And obviously this guy's an accomplished public speaker, but it just shows you it can happen even to the best.
Help someone, it is my intention to do just that. I'm not trying to do anything other than meet somebody at their humanity. Like, case in point, this one time, I remember maybe it was about 17 years ago, I rented this building and we were using it for production. And I was walking to my car one day and I see this woman coming up out of the corner of my eye and I say, she's homeless, let me give her some money. Judgment. I wish I had time to talk about judgment. Anyway, I reach in my pocket and I'm about to give her the money. She says, "Excuse me, sir, do you have any shoes?" It stopped me cold because I remember being...
I have to say, he really does have a great voice. It's said that people who speak in a lower register have more authority when they speak. People tend to follow their lead more easily. And Tyler Perry definitely falls into that category. The other comment I have to make though is he did mention at the beginning that he only has a few minutes, and it does show. It feels a little bit rushed so far. He's trying to paint these scenes, but he's going through it quite quickly. And the problem with that is that generally speaking, we speed up when we want to gloss over something, when we almost think that it's not that important. And slowing down can increase the importance of it. On top of that, if he had more time, he could have added in more pauses for effect in between words to just draw the audience in more.
Homeless and having one pair of shoes and they were bent over at the heels. So I was like, yeah. So I took her into the studio. She was hesitant to go in, but we went in, we go to wardrobe and there are all these boxes and everything around the walls and fabrics and racks of clothes. So we ended up having to stand in the middle of the floor. So as we're standing there, wardrobe, we find some shoes, we help her put them on. I stand up, I'm waiting for her to look up. And all this time she's looking down. She finally looks up, she's got tears in her eyes. She said, "Thank you."
I really like this part. When you're public speaking, it's so important to try to be congruent, to have consistency between what you're saying, your body, your face, your gestures. And he shows some good examples of this here. So when he's talking about the older woman, when he says she's looking down, he looks down. When she looks up, he looks up. He says there's tears down her face. He does this symbol of tears. He could have done it maybe on his actual cheeks and done it a little bit slower. But all these gestures with his head and his hands are making the picture, the visuals more clear of the scene he's describing.
Jesus, my feet are off the ground. In that moment, I recall her saying to me, "I thought you would hate me for asking." I'm like, how can I hate you when I used to be you? How can I hate you when I had a mother who grew up in a Jim Crow South in Louisiana, rural Louisiana, right?
This part here when he says, "How can I hate you when I used to be you?" And he mentioned as well that he's homeless. Sharing these vulnerabilities, the flaws in his life, helped us connect with him.
Across the border from Mississippi, who at 9 or 10 years old was grieving the death of Emmett Till. As she got a little bit older, she was grieving the death of the civil rights boys and the little girls who were in the bombing in Alabama. She grieved all these years. And I remember being a little boy and coming home, and she was at home, like, "What are you doing at home? You're supposed to be at work." She was in tears that day. She said there was a bomb threat. and she couldn't believe that someone wanted to blow up this place where she worked, where she took care of all these toddlers. It was the Jewish Community Center. My mother taught me to refuse hate. She taught me to refuse blanket judgment.
I really like what he's done here. He says, my mother taught me to refuse hate. She taught me to refuse blanket judgment. So he increases the volume. He puts emphasis on different words. She taught me to refuse hate. She taught me to refuse blanket judgment. The rhythm of how he spoke changes. She taught me to refuse hate. She taught me to refuse blanket judgment. And it's the combination of those three elements, the rhythm, the emphasis, and the volume change, together shift the intensity of what he's saying.
And in this time, and with all of the internet and social media and algorithms and everything that wants us to think a certain way, the 24-hour news cycle, it is my hope that all of us would teach our kids, and not only to remember, just refuse hate. Don't hate anybody. I refuse to hate someone because they are Mexican or because they are black or white or LGBTQ. I refuse to hate someone because they are a police officer. I refuse to hate someone because they are Asian. I would hope that we would refuse hate. And I want to take this Gene Herschel Humanitarian Award and dedicate it to anyone who wants to stand in the middle, no matter what's around the walls, stand in the middle, because that's where healing happens. That's where conversation happens. That's where change happens. It happens in the middle. So anyone who wants to meet me in...
That part there was so good. He does quite a few things here. So he has a few functional gestures. He says, you can meet me in the middle. He points to the middle. He says, people around the world, gestures in a circle for around the world. And then he uses three rhetorical devices in quick succession. So he uses an anaphora again. He says, that is where, that is where, that is where. Same word or words at the beginning of two or more sentences. He then uses an epiphora also, which is when you end multiple sentences with the same word or words, in this case, happens, and then uses the power of three. It's said to be the number of things that make items more memorable, it makes them more impactful, it makes them more motivational. He says that is where healing happens, that is where conversation happens, that is where change happens. And you can feel the energy in the room increase when he uses these devices, these language devices together. Now, the thing is, if you use one of these rhetorical devices, it can be really effective in your speech. But when you start stacking them, that's when the real power is. And that's what Tyler Perry's done here. And that's why if you watch it through and watch that moment, you might feel something. Any rousing speech that you listen to, I'm thinking of Any Given Sunday right now, the motivational locker room speech that he gives.
On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch.
And it's clustering them together that you can really motivate and inspire people.
The middle, to refuse hate, to refuse blanket judgment, and to help lift someone's feet off the ground. This one is for you too. God bless you, and thank you, Academy. I appreciate it.
That was so good, I have to say. Tyler Perry is clearly a very accomplished speaker. He's great stage presence. And I think probably most of all, I loved his message. Like I was talking about some of the public speaking skills that he used, but his message was powerful. And he seems like the kind of person who he's trying to make the world a better place. At the end of the day, that's what he's trying to do. And we just can't have enough of people like that. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, hit that like button as well. Really helps me out, helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps more people see the content. That's it for me. See you in the next video.